I left the radio yesterday. We were dealing with an impossible reconciliation. And this is an attempt to marry a Christian education, a biblical-based education, with the secular education that is the product of the public education movement. Of course, J. Gresham M'Cheyne lamented what he saw in public education 100 years ago. Now, if he saw a disaster 100 years ago, where are we now 100 years later? John Calvin summed up the whole problem with the public educational system long before it was begun in the United States, when he said nothing is more infectious than association with the ungodly, for since we are inclined to vice, it cannot be but that when we frequent corruption, the cogitation spreads more widely. He had other things to say, but for the sake of time, I won't go over those on the Bright Spot Hour today. There are, and of course, the title of my series, An Impossible Reconciliation. There can be no reconciliation between secular education and Christian education. The two are irreconcilable. And the reason for that is any reconciliation would do away completely with one or the other. If Christian education is merged with secular education, or secular education is merged with Christian education, you are going to have not a merger, but you'll either have Christian education or secular education, the one or the other. The two cannot be amalgamated. Our State Board of Education and the National Education Society might do well to heed the words of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ when he warned in Matthew 18:6, "But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea." I think that at the judgment, at the white throne judgment for the unbeliever, there are going to be a lot of things leveled out and worked out concerning the public education system and its destruction of children and its destruction of young people. This whole transgender movement that we are now faced with. And you see, mankind is inclined toward corruption. Man has a depraved heart. All children, to some degree, are rebellious against their mothers and dads, and hopefully, by the grace of God, they'll grow out of that over time, but all of them have a rebellious streak in them, especially in their teen years when they're kicking against the pricks. And whenever something like the public education system comes in and says, well, we'll give the girls birth control, but we won't tell their parents, or we'll allow them to begin taking transitioning hormones, and we won't tell their mothers and dads, there's already a rebellious inclination in the human family. And now to have a partner in this rebellion, such as the school system, there's just more and more corruption. There's more and more vice and vileness, and more sin will become appropriated. To say that the secularism of the public education system in America, if conducted in ignorance, is a stretch of believability. C.F. Potter, a humanist, said, quote, "Every American public school is a school of humanism. What can the theistic Sunday schools, meeting for an hour once a week and teaching only a fraction of the children, do to stem the tide of a 5-day program of humanistic teaching?" Now, I think it is worth me repeating that quote on the Bright Spot Hour to be sure that everyone got it. A humanist by the name of C.F. Potter made this comment, quote, "Every American public school is a school of humanism. What can the theistic Sunday schools, meeting for an hour once a week and teaching only a fraction of the children, do to stem the tide of a 5-day program of humanistic teaching. Well, there it is in a nutshell. For you and me to think that what is going on in the public education system, number one, the lack of education, the ill-educated and ill-prepared young people that are being graduated from the public education system. The colleges, of course, they've been dumbing their curriculums down as well, but increasingly, even with a dumbed-down curriculum, the colleges are having to have remedial courses in math and science, and especially in English. The other day I heard the president's spokeswoman in Washington use horrible grammar. I mean, just terrible, terrible grammar that she should have stopped using in elementary school. And she is now the president's official spokesperson, and she's using just horrible grammar. That's a reflection of the dumbing down of the school system. It is my opinion that this is not an accident and has not been done by accident. They know exactly what they're doing. And yet we have many parents, many Christian parents, that are sending their children right on into the public education system. There are many positive distinctions between the public and the Christian educational system, and these differences are the reason for the venomous hatred of the state is leveled against the Christian school phenomena or the private school phenomena. Now let me give you some of these on the program today. Number one, Christian schools or private schools are not controlled by the state. This is probably the single reason for the abject hatred against the Christian school movement. It simply is not controlled by the state. The state despises anything it cannot control. These people are not liberals. They might call themselves liberals. I am the liberal, not them. They are leftist. And leftists want everything to be mandatory. One man said that leftists don't care what you do just so long as it's mandatory. And any conduct or action that is not mandatory will be banned outright. I think the Department of Education in Washington should be closed up. I mean, you don't even need to go to the prayer room about it. Just close the thing down. Furlough, fire all the people, send them back to the states they came from, let them get a job in their state like all the rest of us. Let them begin working for a living like all the rest of us have to. It'll be we've got 50 departments of education in the 50 states in the United States. Let the state run the education system in their state. Somebody will say, but what would we do without the federal Department of Education? We would do exactly what we did before 1978 when Jimmy Carter created it. And you cannot prove that education is worse today than it was prior to 1978. You can document that education was much better in 1950, 60, and 70 without the Department of Education than it has been since 1978. Number two, the reason that a distinction between Christian education and public education. Number two, we are not censored by the politically correct. You see, the left desire to entice us into their accreditation. They say, well, the universities and colleges won't accept your credits because you're not accredited. And so many Christian schools and colleges and universities say, well, we want to be accredited. And they get enticed by the matter of accreditation. Then they long to manipulate the minds of the faculty by swelling their heads with state certification. And they say, well, we are now a state certified Christian university. And the first thing you know, in 20 years, you can tell very little difference between them and the secular university that they were created to be an alternative to. One unaccredited university made the comment one time, somebody said, well, you're not accredited. And the president of the school said, that is correct. We are the ones that educate the people giving the accreditation. We educate those that are the accreditors. And we cannot be accredited because we educate the creditors. Then number 3, we are not controlled by the worldly wise. Horace Mann, the father of our present day public education system, taught that we could educate ourselves out of all of our problems. I was on the phone today with a lady and concerning politics and affordable housing, and I made the comment that some of these problems that society is facing cannot be fixed with a program. These are economic situations and societal things, and you can't wave a magic wand and just make it all dissolve and go away. Horace Mann taught that the public school system had a religious component and that we could educate ourselves out of poverty and sickness and crime, but I would remind you that he was wrong. Then number 4, we are not contributing to society's breakdown. You and I are watching our society crumble all around us. I mean, crime is at an all-time high. An all-time high. Without the Bible, we have no unmovable standard for practice and civility. And behind all of the societal upheaval that we're facing is the desire to destroy and to rid mankind of the Bible. Therefore, society will crumble under our feet if it does not have the cement of the Bible to bond it together, and the cement of the Bible to pull society together. You and I are looking at what a secularist society looks like in the United States. From the White House down, we are watching society crumble before us, and the reason society is crumbling before us is the foundation of the Bible has been ripped out from under our society. Now, my time is gone on the program today, but the Lord willing, I will continue by the grace of God on tomorrow. Be sure to hear the Bright Spot Hour at that time.
By Dr. Ben Carper. Correspondence may be sent to the Bright Spot Hour, Post Office Box 4, Greenville, South